Welcome to the Pimp My Setup highlight for episode number 47. The first setup was submitted by Ben.
I like how he used the tie wraps on the legs underneath the in the back left leg there. He's got some of the cables tie wrapped. Yeah, because if I don't see your wire management, you can just have it all like rolled into a ball put behind something, and that's not wire management. Yeah. Wire management can be seen. It's got to be good looking. That's what it is. You know? It's his setup on the surface of the sun because, because I was like, I had like sunburn after like looking at the picture.
Ben walked away with an 84. The next setup was submitted by Pocket Boy.
You know, you could go with black vinyl tape and a T59 arrow stapler, and along the door frame there, you could staple those. You go right over the cable with the T59. It's designed for RG59, RG6 coax. It could be an awesome setup if you just did about 15 minutes worth of work with the wire management. And is that a can of ready whipped cream behind the one monitor, or is that air pressure?
I hope it's not whipped cream, but
I mean, I don't know. It just looks like looks like whipped cream to me.
Pocket Boy walked away with a 76. The next setup was submitted by Gabe. Great peripherals overall, very nice monitor stand, two amazing matching monitors. Yeah, little pop figures, really nice posters above. He's got his PC elevated. Really, I mean, it's a great setup.
So you want to like put a little bit of your own touch on there, and I think that's all he's missing. Otherwise, I think it's an awesome setup. You gotta hand it to this young man because he's 14 years old, and you know, I don't know if he paid for this stuff himself or whatever, but you know, you gotta do everything in small moves.
Gabe walked away with an 83. This setup was submitted by Albin. My first thing, I mean, this screams IKEA with all the different, furniture and whatnot, but the biggest complaint I have is his shrine of like energy drinks and things like that, like Monster, Rockstar, Red Bull, all that.
Take the subwoofer out from the middle where your feet would be kicking it constantly. And I've tried, because subwoofers, they're meant to be not be seen. You have to kind of hide them. Like when I had in Grandpa's house, I wired subwoofers into the wall. This is really clean. Yeah. And I gave him a little bit of a gig on his wire management only because I can't see his wire management. I can't see the front of the desk. I can't see, I like to see, how'd you do it? Did you tie wrap it? Yeah. Did you Velcro strap it? What'd you do to it? And that, that to me, then I can give you a 10 if you did a really great job, because if I see your wires, it doesn't mean that it's bad if it's neatly done.
Albin walked away with an 88. The next setup was submitted by Cameron.
His wire management could use a little help. Too much stuff under the desk. To me, under your desk is prime real estate. You can't go putting large things under your desk to take up where your real estate, where your feet go.
So it's like one of those boxes you put all your cables in, which I think cool. You could do that, but I'm not really a fan of those, especially with things like signals. You know what I would do, to wrap this setup up, because we could talk about it all day probably, is if this was my setup, I wouldn't even have those shelves on the side, to be completely honest. I would get a bigger desk and I would make it epic. He has so much space on that wall. I would have like the sickest setup ever. Cameron walked away with a 71. The next setup was submitted by Jason.
This setup screams dual monitor stand. Screams it. And if the monitors matched and were the same size.
I would literally just take my hand on one side of the desk and push everything off and start fresh. I feel bad for, that's a nice case, the NZXT H440, but I feel it's not your fridge. You don't put your hundredths on tests on there.
But I'll tell you what, about $100 and about 2 hours, an hour and a half worth of decluttering and putting a new, you can make this thing kick ass.
Jason walked away with a 41. This next setup was submitted by Blaine. The cable management is garbage. Underneath your desk, underneath the monitors, I don't even know. You have like 7 drinks, 37 different things. You have like a stuffed animal stuck under there. Just way too much. Declutter this, and this can look amazing. Someone's saying that is his PC. It looks like there's books in there, and then there's like yellow tape and stuff. I don't think the Coca-Cola thing is his PC.
Just like about 15 minutes worth of wire management would get you going.
Blaine walked away with a 37. This setup was submitted by Connor.
I think it's cool. I like it. I mean, I think it's got a lot of potential wire management. I mean, he's got to clean up underneath the computer. He's got some stuff hanging out there.
Yeah, I love that the DX Racer is yellow, but it doesn't make sense because nothing else in your room follows suit. I would love a new desk because you have a lot of space. Like an L desk would fit perfectly in the corner there. I agree. I think the card is cool, but it looks like back when I was in high school and they would bring around the projector on there, and like it just looks old school. I'm not a big fan, especially because it's so cluttered. Connor walked away with a 54. The next setup was submitted by Casey.
he's like, you can't see where the computer is. Is it on something? Because if it's on the carpet, that's a big no-no.
He tried to just print out the artwork, but the printer he used, the paper he used rather, was so like thin and whatnot that it was so inky that it's a little wrinkly. Yeah. Someone is saying, like, I hope that the door doesn't hit the PC, but it looks like a sliding door.
It's a pocket door. Yeah, it's a slider. Let's give him props for the LEDs behind the desk.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. It doesn't work with that desk.
It works. It
doesn't. No,
it works.
It works. It legit. It physically works. But I'm saying,
if he's 8 years old, this works.
Casey walked away with an 81. This setup was submitted by Matthew. But my favorite part of the setup right off the bat is his lightsaber. You always got to have that ready at all times when you're in college. You know, you never know when you're going to have to fight.
I agree. You're in a confined area. I get it. But it's called, tie wraps or Velcro or black vinyl tape or something.
You and the black vinyl tape, man. It's like,
well, here's the problem: the desk and file cabinet probably comes with the room for the college,
which could work perfectly. He has it set up perfectly anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not bad.
Matthew walked away with the 51. The next setup was submitted by Tom. My biggest complaint has got to be, of course, as everyone knows, cable management, but that is such an easy fix.
I'm going to give him, I guess the word is mad props, for figuring out the size of the thickness of a book that would level that monitor out perfectly, because he did a really good job with that one. I wonder how many books he had to go through before he found the right. You see, what I would do is I would come up with a way to mount that computer on the wall. So it's above, so it's not on the desk and it's above, and it's kind of like a showpiece.
Tom walked away with the 66. This setup was submitted by Curiosity. All right, so this setup is by far the weirdest I've ever seen, because, I mean,
I like it.
It's like his mom said, you know what? Because he said he still lives at home. His mom was like, you know what? Fine. You want a setup? You can have this little section by the front door, and that's it. A wall-mounted little tabletop thing like the doctor's office, the little glass shelf for his TV. He put his little knickknacks, which I think is actually pretty cool. The speakers work perfectly. He's like, hey, I gotta get a small thing as speakers. That's what I'm gonna do. Curiosity walked away with a 71. The next and final setup was submitted by Marco.
Okay, I think he needs bigger speakers on the top next to his monitor. I don't think those are big enough.
Yeah.
Especially with having speakers underneath. You really want to overpower your desk with speakers. I like to see a little personality. Like some of the guys had little characters on. You kind of like know what they're into and stuff. This, I can't tell you. When you personalize like a setup, a guitar when you build your own guitars, or a car or anything, you want to have something on there that tells somebody that, hey, that's mine.
I agree. This needs something to make it his. Marco walked away with an 87. Albin walked away in first place with a score of 88. Marco followed behind in second place with a score of 87. Thanks for watching this Pimp My Setup highlight for episode number 47.